Jaron Boots Ennis makes his return to the ring as he's going to have a hometown fight in Philadelphia on Saturday. A fight that it's going to feel different for Boots. Boots, he's going up against David Avanesian, an opponent that wasn't the first opponent for Boots. It was going to be Cody Crowley. Crowley, unfortunately, with an eye injury, had to pull out, which kind of had me disappointed because Crowley was a guy that he was going to come forward, he was going to fight, but he had to pull out, and the replacement is now David Avanesian. If you're wondering why you've heard that name before, it's because Avanesian fought Terrence Crawford about 2 years ago. If you remember before Spence Crawford was made, they were going back and forth for the end of the year 2022. They're thinking November. Then Crawford pulled out in negotiations and said, okay, I'm going to fight on BLK Prime, a service that I still haven't heard about other than that fight. He went back to Omaha and fought David Avanesian, knocked him out in the 6th round. And then months later, we got the super fight, the mega fight between Crawford and Spence. So Avanesian has been in there with the top guy, Terrence Crawford. For Boots Ennis, this is a chance to be like, oh, let me see what I can do. And while, of course, people are going to compare the performances, and while that's fair, that's not fair, it's going to happen. So Boots could go out there and make a statement saying, Crawford, your guys, man, they're easy work. If he wants to get Avanesian out before the 6th round, that would be a huge statement. This fight is in Philadelphia. I'll be there, so make sure you subscribe, like, comment below. Check out my channel all week. I have footage coming all week from Philadelphia. It's going to be a good night for Boots in the hometown of Philadelphia. He hasn't had a fight there probably since he turned pro early on. Philly really hasn't had these big fights. He's had fights near Philly. His last fight was against Roy Villa. A really great performance. Got the stoppage in it. Just kept beating up Villa. Shout out to him because he kept coming forward. Him and Boots were going back and forth, and good stoppage by Boots. That fight was in Atlantic City. His fight before was in D.C. on the Tank Davis, Hector Luis Garcia undercard. So he's fought around Philly. His first really big fight in Philly. And this is his first fight with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. As Boots left PBC, makes sense. There just really wasn't too many options at PBC. And for some reason, I don't totally agree with this at the moment, but Boots is content on staying at 147, working for Undisputed. There's no big fights at 147. After the Spence Crawford fight, those guys moved up to 54. Tim Tszyu moved up to 54, Tim Tszyu's always been up at 54. Virgil Ortiz moved up to 54. There's really just no big fights at 47 anymore, so I think it's only a matter of time for Boots Ennis to go up to 54, but this fight is going to be at 47. He has the belt at 47, but I think for his career, and I think he's one of the best fighters in the world. He just needs an opportunity to prove it against opponents. I think 54 is where he's going to have to do that. So I know he's talked about Undisputed at 47. Eddie Hearn's talked about getting him fights to become Undisputed at 47. But those big fights are at 54. And for a chance to prove yourself, that's where it's going to have to be. But first, this is a big step for Boots. He's going to have a really good event in his hometown in Philadelphia. I think even though it's not the greatest card, it's not the greatest opponent, I think it's perfectly building up Boots. Get the hometown around him, bring a title fight back to Philly. If he beats up on Avanesian, okay, now people on the entire Northeast are going to take notice. Be like, hey, Boots might be one of our guys. I think it's great brand building for Boots in this fight, and I'm not mad at it. But say if his next 2 fights are similar opponents to Avanesian, okay, then I'm going to have a problem with it. But for Boots, he's been out the ring for a long time. I'm okay for this fight now. I think it's exactly what his career needs, helps build him up. I think it's going to be good. I'm also interested on the undercard. Jaleel Hackett makes his debut for Matchroom. He was signed to Mayweather Promotions, just couldn't get a fight with Mayweather Promotions. Hackett, he's a young prospect in the welterweight division. I heard about him years ago because he was 16 sparring Floyd Mayweather at the end of his career. Floyd was talking great about him. He has trained with Tank Davis and his team. I believe Kenny Ellis is in his corner. That's one of Tank's trainers. Close ties with Tank, Calvin Ford, Kenny Ellis, all that team. So I'm excited to see. This is his really first test against Peter Dobson. It's going to be a good fight. I'm excited to see him on Matchroom get these fights. So I'm excited for that on the undercard, but it's Boots Ennis night. He's going to have, I'm sure, the entire Philadelphia city out there supporting him, and he's going to put on a show. I'm pretty certain for that. I'm excited for it. Reminder, I'm going to be there, weigh in, fight, everything. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. Check out my channel all week because I have footage from the fight live in Philadelphia for you. That's all I got for you today. It's been the Never Drop podcast. I'm out. Peace.